So I'm making this video mostly for myself because today is a really important day for me. It's the day that I have to say goodbye to a dear friend. And that dear friend is my car. This is my car, Sexy. I named it after the Doctor's TARDIS on Doctor Who.
The TARDIS?
Time and relative dimension in space. Yes, that's it. Names are funny. It's me.
Now, TARDIS is short for Time and Relative Dimension in Space. And if you don't know from Doctor Who, it's the vehicle that the Doctor takes their companions and friends all across space and time on grand adventures. And kind of a running joke throughout the show is that even though the Doctor has lived for a very long time and had hundreds of friends and companions, they've become more attached to the vehicle that they travel in more than any of the people that they've traveled with in it. And a fun little part of the show is every time the Doctor regenerates into a new body, it's a fun thing to get to see how their TARDIS is going to reincarnate with a new interior to match their personality. So to me, I feel very much the same way about my car as the Doctor does about their TARDIS. I got it from my mom in 2008, more than a decade ago. And this car was part of our family in Colorado for many years before that. I've taken it from Colorado to Florida for my first space shuttle launch. After that, I took it up to New England to finish school. Then across the country twice for new jobs in California, then back to the East Coast to finish school, then to Indiana for grad school, twice in the process, taking it out to the deserts of Utah to visit Mars. And I've spent so much time in this seat that I'm able to fall asleep now here just as easily as I can in any bed that I've ever owned. But it has reached the point now where I can tell that I just can't keep it anymore. I know with the right investment, I could probably keep it going for another 50,000 miles or so, but I can tell that eventually something is going to break that I can't repair. And if that happens while I'm driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour, it's just too big of a risk that I really don't want to take. So as hard as it is, I can tell that it's just time to say goodbye. But I wanted to record this video as a record of my very last drive with Sexy, just so I'll never forget the decade that we spent together. So in my decade of driving with Sexy, it's developed a lot of quirks that I feel kind of made it more my car. Not once, but twice, someone broke into it while it was parked and tried to steal the car. One time, a thief actually used a machete to break into the back window and actually managed to get a jimmy stick into the ignition and turn it one click. But because the thief didn't know that you had to turn it just such and jiggle it a little bit, he couldn't get the ignition to start, and he couldn't steal the car. By the way, I'm wearing this mic because there's a giant hole in the bottom of the muffler, which makes Sexy quite a loud ride, and I know from personal experience, just trying to record audio in this car on the phone doesn't really work very well. I had the opportunity to get rid of Sexy 3 years ago during one of my cross-country trips. I was parked off on a dirt road off on the side of the highway getting some sleep, when some asshole in a pickup truck rear-ended me, and then proceeded to steal my wallet. Repairing the damage to the back hatch would have cost more than the value of the car, but I wasn't really ready to get rid of the car yet, so I just kind of learned to live without a functional back hatch until I found an identical rear bumper and rear hatch from another 1998 blue Honda Civic and install it myself. Because I knew that I was never going to sell this car, I've kind of just learned to treat the cosmetic damage, not as damage, but as character, and I've only worked to repair the functional and the safety damage. Now, of course, like a TARDIS, Sexy is bigger on the inside. I've taken it to dozens of star parties, and whenever I open up the back hatch and then pull 2 enormous telescopes out of the back, people are always surprised that I was able to pack that much equipment into this tiny little sedan. But like a TARDIS, it can be a bit temperamental. I've always kept a repair kit with spare parts in the back in case something breaks, which it often does. But as Captain Reynolds said about his ship, if you love a boat, she'll always let you know she's hurting before she fails. And Sexy has always done just that for me. It's never stopped working completely. It's always found a way to let me know when it needed maintenance before it just shut down. Even now, with over 250,000 miles on the odometer, still never gets worse than 35 miles to the gallon. I've filled it to capacity with all of my possessions to drive across the country to start a new life. I've snuggled up in the back seat with a dear friend out in the mountains while the heaters kept us warm. I've laid out on the roof under a star-studded sky. I've driven it far enough to reach the moon and orbit it 10 times. And after so much time together, I can't deny that I am really going to miss it. And it does kind of feel like I'm saying goodbye to a dear friend. But I know, like the Doctor and their TARDIS, even though you're moving into a new body, you're not actually saying goodbye.